Night had fully settled over the jungle, turning the leaves into dark shapes that whispered with the wind. Shadows shifted and moved with every rustle, and the sounds of unseen creatures created an endless symphony of alertness. Lyra's eyes adjusted to the darkness, but she remained tense. The mercenaries were still out there, hunting relentlessly. Every crack of a branch or snap of a twig made her muscles tighten. Yet, amidst the danger, the soft whisper returned. It was the human. His voice, calm and precise, drifted through the night air. Lyra could not understand the words, but their meaning was clear. There was no threat in his tone, only direction and reassurance. She slowed her pace, letting the whisper guide her instead of her fear. Crouched behind a thick bush, Lyra watched him move. He walked with careful confidence, placing each foot deliberately, avoiding fallen branches and hidden pitfalls as though he could see through the darkness. There was no rush, no panic. Even in the presence of danger, he seemed perfectly in control. Lyra felt her chest tighten. Her mind raced with questions. How could he move like that? How could he be so calm when the jungle was filled with threats? Why did his presence make her feel both safe and exposed at the same time? She wanted to call out, to speak to him, but her voice felt trapped in her throat. She had learned long ago that showing weakness could cost her life. Yet something about this human made her hesitate, made her rethink everything she had believed about strangers. The whisper came again, closer this time, almost like a song. Step here, stop there, wait. Each instruction was subtle, guiding her movement without forcing her. Lyra followed, her body moving instinctively with his directions. It was as if the human could see the dangers she could not, feel the traps hidden under leaves, and sense the mercenaries closing in long before they appeared. Minutes stretched into hours, or perhaps only moments Lyra could not tell in the darkness. Time seemed to bend around the human, his presence bending her fear into something else. She realized she was no longer running blindly. She was following, learning, and trusting in a way she had never done before. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the jungle. A branch broke under the weight of one of the mercenaries. Lyra froze, her heart pounding in her chest. But the human moved swiftly, silently, positioning himself between her and the approaching danger. She watched, frozen, as he created a subtle distraction, throwing a small rock into the shadows. Drawing the enemy's attention elsewhere, Lyra's jaw went slack. He did not fight, he did not shout, yet he had shifted the danger away from her. His cleverness, his calm authority, made her pulse skip in a strange way. She realized she had never seen anyone handle danger like this before among her own people. Not among any of the mercenaries she had faced. The mercenaries cursed and searched, frustrated by the human's distraction. They did not notice Lyra slip behind the cover of trees and rocks, moving closer to him with cautious steps. She wanted to speak, to ask how he knew all of this, but the words would not come. The whisper returned, gentle yet firm. Follow closely. Trust me. Lyra's chest tightened again, made it with fear, but with a strange excitement. She had never felt trust like this before, especially toward a stranger. Yet every instinct in her body told her that this human was different. She moved closer, step by step, until she was only a few paces behind him. The jungle opened into a small clearing. The moonlight shone faintly through the trees, illuminating the human as he crouched, scanning the shadows. Lyra stayed hidden, careful not to make a sound. She watched him study the terrain, noticing every detail at the position of trees, the path of the shadows, the subtle movement of distant branches. It was as though he could see the invisible threads of danger that surrounded them. Her mind raced. Humans were rare on this planet, and rare in general. Most were curious travelers, traders, or explorers. Few were trained fighters or scouts. But this human, he was something else. He moved with intelligence and precision, relying not on strength, but on skill and strategy. Lyra had never seen anyone like him. Another noise reached her ears, a whisper of movement to the east. A mercenary had discovered their path and was closing in. Lyra froze, but the human did not panic. Instead, he turned his gaze slightly, scanning the shadows, and gave a subtle nod. Without a word, he moved again, leading her toward a narrow tunnel of vines and rocks. Liara followed, her trust in him growing with each step. Her fear was still present, but it no longer controlled her. Instead, it mixed with fascination and curiosity. Every time he whispered, she felt her body relax, her mind sharpen. The human's voice had a strange power, soft, yet commanding, calm, yet urgent. It seemed to slow the chaos around her and bring focus to her mind. As they moved deeper into the jungle, Liara noticed something else. The human was watching her not in a scrutinizing way, but with attention, as if he understood the importance of her survival. Each time she stumbled over a root or paused to catch her breath, he was there, guiding, whispering, silently protecting her. Her chest tightened again. She realized that her heart was no longer racing from fear alone. It was racing from something new, a mix of admiration, awe, and an unexplainable pull toward this human. She had never trusted anyone so quickly, and yet she could not deny it. Something about him demanded attention, demanded belief in his abilities and intentions. They reached a small creek, the water flowing quietly over smooth stones. The sound was soothing, but the danger was still close. The mercenaries were persistent, and Liara could feel their presence like a shadow creeping along the jungle floor. The human crouched by the water, looking back at her. His eyes met hers for the first time, and she felt a shock ripple through her chest. There was no threat in his gaze, no arrogance, no impatience, only focus and calm assurance. Liara felt her heart literally stop for a moment. The whisper came one last time. Closer than ever, almost inside her mind. "Drink, stay strong," she obeyed. Kneeling by the creek and taking a sip of the cool, clean water, her body trembled, not from fear, but from relief and a strange, overwhelming sense of trust. She realized that the human had not only guided her physically, but had somehow steadied her mind. The jungle was still dangerous. The mercenaries were still hunting. But for the first time in hours, Liara felt hope. Hope and something more, an awareness that she was no longer alone in the darkness. The human stood again, silently gesturing for her to follow. Liara rose, feeling her muscles tense with readiness. She could sense the danger still lurking, but she also felt the human's presence beside her, a shield, a guide, and perhaps something even more powerful. As they moved through the shadows, Liara could not stop thinking about the whisper, about the calm voice that had stopped her heart. She had never experienced anything like it before, and she did not understand it. Yet she trusted it, and she trusted him. The jungle seemed endless, but the human navigated it effortlessly, his soft whispers guiding her through every hidden trap, every shadow of danger. Liara's fear had not vanished, but it had transformed. She was no longer running blindly. She was following, learning, beginning to believe in something she had never thought possible, trust in another being. And a strange, thrilling fascination with the one who had earned it. The night stretched on, full of shadows, whispers, and unseen threats. And through it all, the human led her, calm and focused, as if the jungle itself obeyed his presence. Liara followed, her heart still racing, yet no longer from panic. It was racing from awe, curiosity, and the first spark of connection between two beings from worlds apart. She did not know what lay ahead. The mercenaries would not give up. Danger lurked behind every tree, every rock, every shadow. But one thing was certain: Liara's life had changed. The whisper had stopped her heart in more ways than one. And she knew, deep in her chest, that the path forward would never be the same again. The jungle had grown darker, almost oppressive as the night deepened. Leaves rustled above, branches creaked under unseen weight, and every shadow seemed alive. Yet Liara's fear had changed. It was no longer sharp and blinding. It was tempered by all trust and curiosity about the human who moved ahead of her. With such calm certainty, every step she took was guided by his soft whispers. They were almost like wind brushing past her ears, subtle but impossible to ignore. Step here, watch there, move quietly. She followed without hesitation, amazed at how his voice could calm her instincts while sharpening her senses at the same time. Liara had faced dangers before: wild predators, hostile aliens, even rival scouts, but nothing had ever required this level of focus. She had never trusted anyone like this, and yet she could not resist it. Something about the human demanded her attention and her obedience, not by force, but by his presence and intelligence. The mercenaries' pursuit was relentless. Liara could hear them now, faintly, voices angry and frustrated. They had been following her trail for hours and were close. She clenched her fists, ready to spring into action, but the whisper came again, soft yet commanding. "Stay calm. Wait for me." The human stopped abruptly. Liara froze behind a tree, her pulse hammering. He turned, not to face her, but to look ahead at a slope leading to a narrow ridge. The mercenaries would soon catch up to that ridge, and it was an open-area trap if they ran blindly. He crouched low, scanning the terrain. His eyes flicked over rocks, shadows, and branches with precision that made Liara's chest tighten in admiration. Then he pointed subtly to a hidden path running parallel to the ridge. It was barely visible in the dim light, covered with thick vines and leaves. "This way," his whisper seemed to say. Liara's breath caught. She had never moved so silently, so carefully. Step by step, she followed him, every muscle in her body alert, every sense tuned to the danger surrounding them. The jungle seemed to shift around him, almost as if it recognized his presence. Branches bent just enough to allow passage, roots avoided their feet, and shadows seemed to obscure them from prying eyes. The mercenaries' voices grew louder. They were near. Liara could hear their boots crunching leaves, their shouts growing urgent. The human did not panic. He simply gestured for her to stay low, and they slipped along the hidden path like ghosts. Liara's mind was racing. How could one being move so fearlessly through such danger? How could he anticipate every obstacle before it appeared? She had always prided herself on her agility and senses, yet she felt dwarfed by this human's calm mastery. Then, sudden noise, another crack of a branch made Liara's heart leap. One of the mercenaries had discovered part of their trail. Liara froze, expecting a violent confrontation. But the human moved with precision, not recklessness. He picked up a loose stone and tossed it toward the opposite direction. The sound echoed, drawing the mercenaries' attention away from their path. Liara gasped silently. He didn't fight. He didn't shout. He simply redirected the threat. His intelligence was sharp, his instincts perfect. She had never encountered such skill in any being. Her admiration for him deepened, mixed with a strange, inexplicable pull toward him. They continued along the hidden path, moving through a tangle of vines and roots. Liara felt her heart slow despite the danger. She realized she was no longer just running for survival. She was learning, adapting, and most unexpectedly, trusting. Every soft whisper from the human guided her, not with orders, but with assurance. "You are safe. Follow me." The path opened into a small clearing with a shallow pool of water reflecting the dim moonlight. Liara crouched at the edge, taking a cautious sip. The water was cool and refreshing, a small relief from the tension that had gripped her muscles for hours. The human knelt beside her, scanning the jungle with quiet focus. For the first time, their eyes met fully. His gaze was calm yet piercing, as if he could see everything around them, the shadows, the hidden dangers, and even her racing thoughts. Liara felt a strange warmth in her chest, a pulse that was not fear, but something unfamiliar and intense. The whisper came again, closer, almost intimate. "Drink, rest, prepare." Liara obeyed without hesitation. Her body was tired, but her mind was alert. She realized that the human had not only guided her physically, but had also steadied her mind. His presence was like a shield, a guide, and a teacher all in one. Suddenly, the mercenaries' shouts grew louder. They had discovered part of the hidden path. Lyra's pulse quickened, but she stayed low, trusting the human completely. He gestured for her to follow him, toward another concealed route, and she moved, silent and precise. Amazed at how instinctively she followed his guidance, as they climbed a small rise, Liara noticed something unusual. The human paused and looked back at her, his eyes meeting hers again. There was no impatience, no judgment, only focus and quiet reassurance. She realized her chest tightened again, not from fear, but from the strange impact of his calm presence. Her heart seemed to stop in a way she had never felt before. The connection was unspoken yet undeniable. She could feel it in the way he moved, the way he whispered, and the way he looked at her. Her instincts, normally sharp and defensive, were now tuned to his guidance. She trusted him completely, though she had only known him for a short time. The jungle grew thicker, shadows moving like living things. Liara could hear the mercenaries searching, their frustration mounting. But the human continued to move with quiet confidence, whispering guidance that led her safely around every trap, every route, every hidden danger. They reached a narrow ridge overlooking a small valley. The moonlight cast shadows across the terrain, revealing the mercenaries far below, searching in frustration. The human crouched, scanning the area. He then looked back at Liara and gestured silently. She understood immediately. Follow carefully, stay close, and trust him. They moved together along the ridge, careful not to make a sound. Lyra's heart was pounding, not from fear, but from awe. She had never seen such mastery in another being. The human's calm, precise movements contrasted sharply with the chaos of the jungle and the aggression of their pursuers. At a bend in the ridge, the human stopped suddenly. He whispered softly, his words almost inaudible. Now, Liara froze, her muscles tense. Then, with a motion too fast to fully track, he slipped down a hidden slope, moving silently into the shadows below. Liara followed, heart racing, as the human guided her to a hidden tunnel concealed by thick vines and rocks. They emerged in a small, safe clearing, hidden from view. Liara sank to her knees, exhausted but relieved. She looked at the human, feeling an overwhelming mixture of gratitude, curiosity, and something deeper she could not yet name. The whisper returned, soft, gentle, and commanding rest. You are safe now. Liara closed her eyes briefly, letting the tension drain from her body. She had survived the chase, avoided capture, and found herself guided by a being unlike any she had ever met. The human had not only saved her, but it also changed the way she viewed danger, trust, and connection. As she opened her eyes, she realized that the mercenaries were far below, frustrated and defeated for now. But the human remained vigilant, his eyes scanning every shadow, every movement. Liara understood then that this was no ordinary human. He was calm, clever, fearless, and wise. And she felt her heart stir again, a strange, thrilling pulse of admiration and fascination. The night stretched on, full of hidden dangers, whispers, and quiet moments of awe. Liara knew that her journey was far from over. The mercenaries would not give up easily. But she also knew that she was no longer running blindly. She was following, learning, and beginning to trust a human in a way she had never trusted anyone before, and she felt deep in her chest that this connection, the dangerous, mysterious, and compelling connection, was only the beginning. The first light of dawn filtered through the dense canopy, painting the jungle in muted shades of green and gold. The sounds of nocturnal creatures faded, replaced by the chirping of early birds and the rustle of leaves in the gentle morning breeze. Liara crouched behind a thick tree trunk, her muscles still tense from the long night. The mercenaries were close. She could hear their voices now, rough and angry, echoing through the undergrowth. They had tracked her for hours, relentless and determined. And now, daylight made the jungle less forgiving for anyone trying to hide. Yet the human remained calm. He moved ahead of her, silent and precise, his gaze sweeping the trees and paths as if he could read every movement in the shadows. He whispered softly, low enough that only she could hear, "Stay low. Follow closely." Liara followed without question, her heart still pounding, but with a strange mix of relief and awe. The human had guided her this far, keeping her safe without lifting a weapon. His strategy was subtle, yet brilliant, relying on anticipation, clever distractions, and flawless timing. Suddenly a loud shout shattered the morning calm. One of the mercenaries had spotted movement near the clearing they had passed earlier. Liara froze, expecting the worst. But the human did not flinch. He crouched behind a thick vine-covered boulder and scanned the terrain. Then he moved swiftly and silently toward a narrow ravine that would give them a tactical advantage. Liara followed, barely daring to breathe. She watched as the human positioned himself with careful precision, using the shadows and natural cover to conceal their presence. Then, almost without warning, he acted. A sharp, deliberate noise echoed through the trees, a small rock thrown into the undergrowth. The mercenaries turned instinctively toward the sound, momentarily distracted. The human took advantage of their confusion. He moved with fluid speed, guiding Liara around the mercenaries' line of sight and deeper into the jungle. Liara's chest tightened with amazement. He did not fight, yet he outsmarted them at every turn. His calm confidence, intelligence, and control over the situation made her pulse race in a new way. Part admiration, part something she did not fully understand. The mercenaries shouted and advanced, growing more aggressive as they realized they were being outmaneuvered. One of them raised a weapon, aiming toward the direction of the sound, but the human had already shifted their position. Liara watched in awe as he anticipated every movement, every decision, every trap, and countered it with effortless skill. For the first time, she felt completely safe, yet fully aware of the danger still lurking around them. She realized that his calm was not arrogance, it was mastery. He understood the jungle, the threats, and even her instincts in a way that no one she had ever known could. They reached a small clearing near a waterfall, the mist cooling the air and hiding their scent. The mercenaries had stopped momentarily, trying to locate them. The human gestured for Liara to crouch behind a fallen log, and she obeyed instinctively. Then he acted. He moved into the open briefly, drawing attention. One mercenary spotted him and aimed his weapon, shouting orders. But the human was faster. With a series of calculated movements, he created a series of distractions, throwing rocks, kicking debris, and leading their pursuers into a narrow canyon where the mercenaries stumbled over roots and rocks. Liara watched. He did not strike them, yet he neutralized their threat entirely. Their confusion and mistakes gave her and the human the advantage they needed. She realized then that humans were remarkable in their creativity and quick thinking, able to turn even a desperate situation into an opportunity. Once the mercenaries were disoriented, the human returned to her side. He crouched beside her, whispering again, "Now, move quickly." Liara followed, her trust in him absolute. They slipped through the undergrowth, moving silently, avoiding every potential danger. She noticed that his whispers guided not only her movements, but her thoughts, calming her mind. Focusing her instincts and turning fear into awareness, they reached another clearing. Higher up, overlooking a valley where the mercenaries were regrouping, the human gestured toward a hidden path leading further into the jungle. Liara followed without hesitation. Her body was exhausted, yet her mind was sharper than ever, tuned to his instructions and aware of every movement around her. At the edge of the path, the human paused. He turned to her, his gaze steady and reassuring. For a moment, Liara felt her chest tighten in a way she could not explain. Her heart was no longer racing from Firid, was racing from admiration, fascination, and a strange pull toward him. He whispered softly, almost like a breeze, "You are safe for now. Rest, then we continue." Liara sank to her knees, taking in the cool air, the sound of the jungle, and the fact that she had survived another close encounter. She looked at him and realized something important. This human was unlike anyone she had ever met. He relied not on strength, not on aggression, but on intelligence, observation, and calm control. She wanted to speak, to ask him how he had done all of it, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she simply nodded, acknowledging that she understood and trusted him completely. The human smiled faintly, small but genuine expression that made her chest tighten again. Then he gestured for her to follow, and they moved deeper into the jungle. avoiding the main paths where the mercenaries might be searching. As they moved, Lyra's mind wandered. She thought about the mercenaries, their aggression, and how different the human was from them. He had faced danger calmly and cleverly, without violence, yet had protected her every step of the way. She felt a new sense of respect for humanity, a recognition of their unique strength not in brute force, but in intelligence, courage, and creativity. Hours passed as they navigated the jungle. Leora's muscles ached, but her determination never wavered. Every whisper from the human guided her, and every movement he made inspired her. She realized that she had never felt this connected to anyone before. The feeling was both thrilling and terrifying. Eventually, they reached a high ridge overlooking a calm river below. The morning light reflected on the water, creating a moment of peace amidst the chaos of the past night. Lyra crouched beside the human, catching her breath and observing the mercenaries far below, still searching but unable to locate them. The human whispered softly again, "We are safe here for now. Rest and prepare." Lyra nodded, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. She had survived, thanks to him, and for the first time in hours she allowed herself to relax. Yet her heart still fluttered not from fear, but from awe, trust, and a strange excitement she could not name. She realized that the human had not only guided her physically, but had also steadied her mind. His calm, clever, and fearless nature had changed her perception of danger, trust, and connection. She felt her chest tighten again, her heartbeat racing, and for a moment, she realized that she had never trusted anyone so completely, or felt so alive in the presence of another being. The jungle was still dangerous. The mercenaries were persistent and clever, but Lyra no longer felt alone. She had a guide, a protector, and someone who had earned her absolute trust in a matter of hours. She knew that the path ahead would still be perilous, but with him, she could face it with confidence as they rested. Lyra glanced at the human, her admiration and curiosity growing. He had saved her, outsmarted the mercenaries, and shown her the strength of intelligence and courage. She felt a spark of something new, something she could not yet define: a connection, a trust, and perhaps the first glimmer of something deeper. The human looked at her, calm and reassuring, and whispered again, soft as the morning breeze, "We moved together. We survived together." Lyra nodded, her heart swelling with respect, admiration, and the first real sense of hope. The mercenaries would not give up easily, but she knew one truth now: humanity, in the form of this calm, clever, fearless human, had changed everything. And for the first time since the chase had begun, she felt something beyond fear, a sense of purpose, trust, and the thrilling connection that would guide her through whatever came next. The morning sun climbed higher, spilling golden light across the jungle canopy. Birds called from hidden branches, and the distant murmur of the river echoed through the trees. Lyra crouched behind a large fern, her senses alert, yet her body carried a new kind of calm. She was no longer running blindly, no longer consumed by fear. She had a guide, a protector, and something more: a presence that made her heart stop in the most unexpected way. The mercenaries were still out there. She could hear faint shouts in the distance, their frustration growing. They had followed her trail, and yet they had been outsmarted, time and again, by a human who seemed almost impossible to predict. Lyra had watched in awe as he led her through the jungle, avoided traps, diverted the pursuers with clever, non-violent tactics. Now, at last, they had a chance to catch their breath. The human knelt beside a shallow pool of water, scanning the area with calm, calculating eyes. Lyra approached slowly, her own exhaustion tempered by renewed determination. She crouched beside him, grateful for the brief pause. "You're incredible," she whispered softly, though she knew he might not understand her words. She didn't know if he expected gratitude or trust from her, but she had to say something. Her chest was still tight with awe. The human's calm eyes met hers. He said nothing, yet his presence was a response, a quiet assurance that they were safe, for now. His soft whispers earlier had guided her through danger. Now his quiet confidence made her feel that they could face anything together. Lyra realized something astonishing. She had never trusted another being so quickly. She had never followed anyone so completely, so willingly. And yet, here she was, moving in step with a human she had only just met. She could feel a bond forming, something unspoken but undeniable. The whisper returned, softer this time, almost like a breeze brushing her mind. "We move. Stay close. Be ready." She nodded, heart racing, yet steady with anticipation. The danger was not gone. The mercenaries were clever, aggressive, and determined. But she no longer felt alone or hopeless. The human beside her had proven that calm intelligence, courage, and quick thinking could overcome even the most relentless threat. They moved through the jungle together, silent and deliberate. Every step was guided by instinct, observation, and the subtle whispers that seemed to thread through Leora's mind. She marveled at his precision, the way he navigated difficult terrain, avoided traps, and anticipated danger before it appeared. Humans, she realized, were extraordinary. Not for brute strength, not for weaponry, but for ingenuity, courage, and the quiet brilliance of their minds. As they climbed a small rise, Liara paused to catch her breath. The jungle stretched out below, a labyrinth of shadows and light. The mercenaries were still searching, their frustration evident. One of them paused to scan the horizon, unaware of the hidden path the human had discovered. Liara looked at him, admiration filling her chest. His presence was magnetic, grounding, and yet exhilarating. She felt her heartbeat quickened, not from fear, but from awe and something new, something she could not yet name. The human gestured toward a concealed ridge path, just wide enough for them to move through without being seen. Liara followed, every muscle alert but calm, guided by instinct and trust. They moved quietly, shadows among shadows, until they reached the edge of the ridge. Below, the mercenaries struggled, tripping over roots and rocks, distracted by false tracks and clever diversions. Lyra's chest swelled with respect. She realized that this human's brilliance was not in fighting, but in strategy. Every move he made turned danger into opportunity. Every whisper guided her through uncertainty, and every calculated step kept them safe. Suddenly, one of the mercenaries spotted a flicker of movement below. He raised his weapon, shouting orders, but it was too late. The human had anticipated this moment. He directed Liara with a single glance, guiding her to a hidden path along the ridge's edge. The mercenary stumbled, caught in a trap of his own making. While Liara and the human moved on, silent as the wind, they reached a secluded plateau. The sun now high and warm above them, forest below was thick with shadows, hiding the frustrated mercenaries. Liara sank to her knees, letting relief wash over her. She had survived thanks to him, and for the first time in hours, she allowed herself to breathe fully. The human knelt beside her, his calm gaze never leaving the jungle below. Then for the first time he spoke words she could understand, simple but precise. "You are safe." Liara felt her chest tighten again. Safe. After everything, she was truly safe, not because she had hidden or run, but because he had guided her with intelligence, courage, and quiet brilliance. Her admiration and gratitude surged, mingled with a strange, thrilling awareness that her life had changed forever. She looked at him more closely now, seeing the subtle details, the calm strength in his stance, the careful calculation in his eyes, the quiet authority that radiated from him. She realized that she was not just impressed, she was drawn to him, fascinated by the way he moved through the world with precision, fearlessness, and empathy. The human turned his gaze toward her, a faint smile brushing his lips. He did not speak, yet his presence spoke volumes. Liara felt a rush of emotion, a mixture of relief, admiration, and something deeper, a bond that had formed in the midst of danger and whispered guidance. The whisper returned, soft and gentle. "We survive. Together." Liara nodded, her heart still racing, but no longer from fear. What was from awe, trust, and the growing sense of connection. She realized that humans were remarkable not just in strength or skill, but in their ingenuity, courage, and ability to inspire trust and hope. The jungle around them seemed less threatening now. The shadows were still present, the mercenaries still hunting, but Liara felt a profound change within herself. She was no longer alone, no longer purely driven by fear. She had a guide, a protector, and a presence that had stopped her heart in the most extraordinary way. They moved together through the plateau, careful but confident. Liara's muscles were tired, yet her mind was sharp. She had learned more about trust, strategy, and courage in one night than she had in years. The human's calm intelligence had shown her that strength was not only physical, but also mental and emotional. As they descended toward a safer part of the jungle, Liara glanced at him again. She felt her heartbeat quicken, not from fear, not from danger, but from admiration, fascination, and a strange sense of something more she had never imagined. She could feel so connected to another being so quickly, yet here she was, following him willingly, trusting him completely. The morning sun bathed them in light as they reached a narrow river, the water sparkling and clear. The mercenaries were nowhere in sight, trapped in the jungle below, frustrated and outwitted. Liara breathed deeply, letting the warmth of the sun and the relief of safety fill her chest. The human knelt beside her once more, scanning the area with calm precision. He whispered again, soft but firm, "We are safe for now. Rest, then we continue." Liara nodded, understanding perfectly.
How'd they?
She had survived the hunt, outsmarted danger, and found herself guided by a human whose courage, intelligence, and calm brilliance had changed everything. She realized that she was no longer running blindly through the jungle. She was moving forward with purpose, guided by someone who had earned her absolute trust. Her chest tightened again. And this time, it was not from fear. It was from hope, admiration, and the growing bond that had formed in the night. She knew that her life would never be the same. The human had shown her the strength of intelligence, courage, and trust in doing so, had sparked something within her that she could not yet name. The jungle stretched around them, full of shadows and light, danger and beauty. Liara stood beside him, ready to face whatever came next. She knew the mercenaries would not give up easily, but she also knew that with him, she could survive anything. And as she looked at him, standing calm and composed in the morning sun, Liara realized that her heart had stopped once again, not from fear, but from awe, trust, in the extraordinary human who had changed everything. They moved together into the jungle, side by side, ready to face the future. The danger was not gone, the path was not easy, but with trust, courage, and the brilliance of humanity guiding her, Liara felt something she had never felt before: hope. The alien outpost sat on the edge of a gray, rocky planet. Jagged cliffs rose around it like giant teeth, and the wind howled constantly, carrying the sharp scent of iron from the rocks. Inside the outpost, alien leaders moved with purpose, their voices sharp and tense. They were discussing something that had made them uneasy for weeks' human activity near their borders. "They are bold," said Zorlak, the largest of the leaders. His forearms crossed over his chest. "Humans move without warning, and yet they show no fear. It is strange." "They are weak," said another, a lithe figure named Varys. "Their ships are small, their weapons primitive. We should not worry." Zorlak's eyes narrowed. "Do not underestimate them. Weak or strong, humans are unpredictable, and that is dangerous." At that moment, a soft hum filled the room. A transport landed outside the outpost, and the aliens stiffened. They were not expecting visitors. The doors hissed open, and a human stepped out. He was tall, with calm eyes and a slow, confident stride. He carried no weapon and wore a simple uniform. Yet every alien in the room felt a quiet weight in his presence. The human raised his hand in greeting. "Greetings. I hope I am not intruding." His voice was steady and calm, almost gentle. Zorlak stepped forward. "You are not expected." "Why are you here?" The human smiled slightly. "I have seen your outpost from orbit. It is impressive." He paused, scanning the walls, the towers, the patrols. "Your defenses are clever. Well placed. I can see that much thought went into them." Varys tilted her head, suspicious. "That is a compliment?" The human nodded. Yes, a compliment, and perhaps a small warning. His words made the room grow colder. Aliens glanced at each other, unsure of what he meant. Zorlak's voice was sharp. Explain, the human smiled. Not yet. Patience is part of strategy. But I wanted you to know that I notice things. The way your defenses work, the way your patrols move. All impressive. All. Slightly exposed. A murmur ran through the room. Aliens did not like the tone. Compliments usually meant flattery, not caution. But something in the human's eyes made them uneasy. Varys's voice trembled slightly. What do you mean by slightly exposed? The human tilted his head. A compliment can be more than words. It can be advice. Sometimes it is a hint. Sometimes it is a warning. The aliens were silent. They had never seen a human speak this way. Zorlak's tentacles twitched nervously. We will watch you closely. Your words are strange. The human bowed slightly. I would expect nothing less. I am here only to observe, and perhaps to help. He paused and looked around. Sometimes the smallest suggestion can prevent a disaster. For a moment, the room was tense. Aliens did not trust humans easily. They thought of them as primitive, chaotic creatures. Yet something about this human made them question that belief. His calm manner, the careful choice of words, the way he seemed to notice every detail. It was unsettling. Zorlak finally spoke. You may walk the outpost, but no human may touch our systems without supervision.
Ow.
The human nodded. Of course, I am careful. He moved through the outpost slowly, inspecting the walls, the towers, the energy barriers. Every alien he passed glanced at him with suspicion. Yet he spoke nothing offensive. Instead, he smiled and said small, polite things. This control panel is very precise. Well designed, he said to one officer. It is clever the way it can detect intruders without raising alarms. I like that. The officer stiffened. It is our duty, he said cautiously. The human nodded. Yes, and you perform it well. You are alert, careful, and proud of your work? That is good. Later, he stopped by the main tower and looked out at the cliffs surrounding the outpost. Your location is perfect. No enemy could approach without being seen. Yet, the east cliff has a small ridge that could block sensors. Nothing major, but it is something to watch. I am sure you already know it. The aliens froze. This human had just pointed out a weakness in their defenses. And he did it with a compliment. Zorlak's voice was low and controlled. You notice everything. The human smiled. It is my job. Humans are observant. Sometimes we say nice things to help others notice what they cannot see themselves. Varys frowned. And the warning? You said something about a warning? The human's eyes were calm. A warning can be hidden in kindness. You do not always see it at first. You may only realize it later, when it matters most. The room was quiet. No alien had ever spoken this way before. No human had ever come close. And yet, despite the strange approach, there was a sense of truth in his words. A young alien officer, Sella, watched him with suspicion. She had joined the outpost recently and was still learning the ways of her leaders. She felt uneasy. Why does he speak in riddles? She whispered to her companion. Her companion shrugged. Perhaps humans are strange. Perhaps he is clever. Either way, I do not like it. The human turned slightly as if sensing her words. He smiled softly. Understanding takes time. Patience is a skill. Scylla felt a chill run down her spine. There was something more in his voice than politeness. Something hidden. She did not trust it, yet she could not look away. Later, the human returned to the central chamber. Thank you for allowing me to visit, he said. I have seen much, and I have learned more. Your defenses, your officers, your patience. Impressive. Zorlak's eyes narrowed. And the warning? The human's smile was calm. Consider it a promise. Observe carefully, and remember my words. Sometimes a compliment is a lesson. Sometimes it is a shield against mistakes. I hope you will use it wisely. He bowed slightly and left the chamber. The aliens watched him go, unsettled. They did not know whether to feel honored or threatened. Varys broke the silence. He is not like any human I have seen. There is a danger in his calm. Zorlak nodded slowly. Yes. His words are small, but they carry weight. We must watch him. Not closely enough to provoke him, but enough to learn what he is truly doing. Stella's eyes narrowed. I do not trust him. Zorlak gave her a sharp glance. None of us do, but we must admit, he is clever. Too clever to ignore. Outside, the wind howled across the cliffs. The humans' transport lifted off, leaving the outpost in silence. Yet even as it disappeared into the gray sky, the sense of unease lingered. The humans' words, delivered as compliments, had carried a subtle warning, and the aliens, though they did not yet fully understand, felt that they had been tested. In the coming days, small incidents began to happen. Patrols noticed minor flaws in their routines. Sensors missed small movements. Communications had small delays. Each time, the aliens remembered the human's calm smile and his words about hidden weaknesses. Sella began to see the truth. He was not praising us for nothing, she whispered to herself. He was showing us where we could fail. And he did it politely, almost gently. But it is a warning, yes. A warning hidden in a compliment. Zorlak studied the reports and frowned. The human's approach is unusual. He does not threaten. He does not attack. Yet his words are more dangerous than weapons. He shows us what we cannot see. That is intelligence beyond our understanding. Varys sighed. We have underestimated humans before. Perhaps we have underestimated this one most of all. And so, the alien leaders began to prepare not for a battle, but for understanding. They would study their defenses, their officers, their routines. They would take the humans' words seriously. They would watch, learn, and improve. Somewhere above, the human's transport vanished into the gray clouds. His mission was not to fight, not to conquer. His mission was to teach in the quietest, most subtle way he could. A compliment, he knew, could open eyes. And when it did, it could save lives. The aliens did not yet know how much they would learn, but the message was clear. The human had arrived. His words were gentle, his presence calm, yet his mind was sharp. And the compliments he left behind were more than words, they were a warning. The gray cliffs of the planet whispered in the wind. Somewhere in that whisper was a truth the aliens would not forget. Humans did not fight like them. Humans did not speak like them. And humans were not to be underestimated.